Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful dress using my Viola pattern. The pattern is vintage inspired with some modern twist and it has 3 different options. I will be making the option B. The Viola pattern can be bought following the link in the description. First, let me take you through the supplies you will need for this pattern. You will need light to medium weight main fabric. I'm using a lightweight viscose fabric. And some lightweight lining fabric, but you can also use the main fabric as lining. You will also need interfacing and an invisible zipper. And the printed PDF pattern. Assemble the PDF pattern by cutting off the borders and taping the pattern pieces together by matching the black diamonds. Cut out the pattern pieces in your size so they are ready to be cut out in the fabric. Cut the requested pieces out of both the main fabric, the lining and the interfacing. If you are making the option A or C, please note that the skirt pieces are cut directly from the fabric using a cutting instructions in the booklet. This is done for saving paper and pattern assembling time. I recommend making a trowel before cutting into the real fabric. And if you need to adjust the bust cup size, I have a quick adjustment guide attached in the pattern as well. Begin by applying interfacing on the wrong side of the main fabric on all the bodice pieces. Sew the front bodice piece right side together with the front side panel piece. And repeat this step for the lining pieces as well. Press the seam allowance toward the center front seam. Sew the back piece right side together with the back side panel. Repeat for the lining as well. Press the seam allowance toward the center back seam. On the lining, sew the upper cup to the undercup right sides together. Press the seam allowance open. This can also be done with a pressing ham. On the main fabric, gather the center front seam between the markings so it fits to the lining center front seam. Secure the gatherings by making a knot with both the upper and the under thread. Sew the cup piece right side together with the front bodice piece so the marking match. Press the seam allowance upward. And repeat for the lining. Sew the center front seam right sides together, making sure that the gathering still fits. Press the seam allowance open. And repeat for the lining. Sew the side seam right sides together, note the seam allowance. Press the seam allowance open. and repeat for the lining. Prepare the straps. Sew the lengthwise seam right side together and at the closed end. Cut the corner. Use a loop turner to turn the straps to the right side. And use an edge shaper for sharp corners. And press. Sew the straps at the open end to the main fabric right side together at the strap markings. The 2 front straps on the front bodice and the 2 back straps on the back bodice. All strap seams should face the armhole. Sew the main fabric and the lining right sides together at the neckline. The strap should lay flat between the layers. Snip into the seam allowance at the center front and cut small notches along the curved path of the neckline. Turn to the right side and press the seam allowance toward the lining. From the right side of the lining, understitch the lining to the seam allowance to hold it in place. Onto the skirt. Sew the side seam right side together, note the seam allowance. For gaining an even and not bulky side seam, when pinning the side seam together, hold the seams in the air and pin the side seam right side together. Start at the waist and go down, and if one of the seam is longer than the other, this can be cut off before hemming.
Thank you.
Serge or zigzag the seam allowance. And press it toward the back piece. Choose which side you want the slit to be in and sew the other front seam right side together. Serge or zigzag the seam allowance. And press it toward the center front. Serge or zigzag the front slit seam separately. Sew the slit seam right side together down until the slit marking. Press the seam allowance open, both at the sewn seam and at the open slit. Top stitch the slit opening. I chose to double fold the slit as I work in a more delicate fabric. Begin at the bottom hem on one side, stitching up until the slit marking, crossing over to the other side and down to the bottom hem again. Make sure not to stretch the fabric. Press nicely. Serge or zigzag the center back seam separately. Sew the center back seam right side together up until the zipper marking. Press it open. Sew the skirt right side together with the main fabric bodice at the waistline, making sure to match the seams and the center back seam. Press the seam allowance upwards toward the bodice. Sew the zipper onto the main fabric in the center back opening. Start with the left side of the zipper. Open the zipper and place it so the right side of the zipper is facing the right side of the main fabric. Using an invisible zipper foot or a regular zipper foot, stitch down from the top to the bottom, rolling out the curled zipper teeth and stitching as close to them as you can. Repeat this on the right side. Make sure that the top and the bottom of the zipper is placed exactly opposite of each other. I like to zip the zipper closed after sewing the left side and mark the waistline, top and the bottom of the zipper, so the zipper is the line and not twisted. press carefully. You can cut the zipper length to shorter, but remember to secure it at the end with a basting stitch over the zipper teeth. Fold the seam allowance at the lining waist up towards the wrong side of the fabric. Turn the lining down so it is facing the right side together and sew the lining to the zipper tape. This can be done either by hand or by machine, depending on what you feel the most confident with. I do this with a normal zipper foot and by moving the needle closer to the edge of the foot. Cut the corner and turn to the right side. Close the waistline together with the lining. Pin the pressed seam allowance so it covers the seam allowance on the main fabric. Make a stitch in the ditch on the right side of the fabric or stitch the lining up by hand so no visible stitch is on the right side of the main fabric. Let the dress hang overnight before hemming. Even out the hem before hemming. The hem is stitched in 2 turns. Fold the hem towards the wrong side of the fabric and stitch from the edge. Fold the seam allowance toward the wrong side of the fabric and stitch on top of the other stitch. And press. A hook and eye can be added at the top of the zipper on the lining. The Viola dress is done. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to see your make, so please use these hashtags. This is all the options available in the pattern. All options can be mixed and matched to create your dream dress. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. See you in my next video.